Standing Committee on Natural Resources. Today, we are meeting to discuss the subject matter of main estimates and supplementary estimates 2020-2021. To ensure an orderly meeting, I would like to outline a few rules to follow. Members and witnesses may speak in the official language of their choice. Interpretation services are available for this meeting. You may have the choice at the bottom of your screen of either floor, English, or French. Before speaking, please wait until I recognize you by name. If you are on the video conference, please click on the microphone icon to unmute yourself. Those in the room, this room, your microphone will be controlled as normal by the Proceedings and Verification Officer. A reminder that all comments by members and witnesses should be addressed through the chair. When you are not speaking, your mic should be on mute. With regard to a speaking list, the committee clerk and I will do our best to maintain the consolidated order of speaking for all members, whether they are participating virtually or in person. I would now like to welcome our witnesses, including Minister O'Regan, who will have 5 minutes for his opening statement before we move to questions and answer. Welcome, Minister, and on behalf of the whole committee, please accept all our condolences for your recent loss, and thank you for being here today.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I'm getting an echo, by the way, when I'm speaking. I don't know if on the other end, if you can hear anything about that.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, we're getting a weird sound, definitely an echo, and we also can't see you. So the video in the room is also not working.
I'm also getting translation in the background as well as an echo of my own voice. Yeah. So it's quite distracting.
We're looking at IT here in the room. Can we try now? How is that?
Still getting translation in the French, and I'm still getting an echo of my voice.
Okay. Are you on the French translation at all, Minister?
Oh, that's a good question, Greg. No, I don't think. But I will put interpretation on English. No, it doesn't make a difference. Still getting translation.
Okay, apparently it's been corrected now. How is that now? Can you hear me clearly now? Without an echo?
Hear you with translation in the background and an echo of my own voice.
Okay.
If we don't fix this in a couple of minutes and conscious time and everybody's time, I'll barrel on through.
Sorry, what's that, Minister?
I would rather not.
Yeah.
It's really hard to hear, and again, we still can't see the floor.
I have an echo and I have translation.
Yeah.
Seems like we're picking up someone else's channel.
IT is looking into it, but we're unclear at this point in time. So I will wait until we're getting some clarity as far as what the technology is working like on your end before we proceed. How are we now? Can you hear me clearly now without the echo or without the translation overriding it?
Translation in the background and an echo of my own voice when I talk.
Is anybody else experiencing an echo of their own voice? Can I have somebody else speak up?
Bob.
Brian here. Yes, I hear the same thing.
Same here. Same problem.
Yeah, I have the same problem. It's very distracting.
Same.
Rachel, yeah. Everybody.
Still looking into it. If you want, we could suspend, I guess.
Should we suspend?
It's
okay. Can we suspend for 5 minutes here, and we'll see what will happen, and we'll be right back at this in 5 minutes. Thank you for your patience, everyone.
Okay, great.
First, it looks like you can see the floor now. Would that be correct?
Indeed.
Okay.
Yep.
And I'm just checking with everybody that's participating virtually. Is your sound working well? Okay.
Much better, Mr. Chair.
Good. If you don't mind, I think we've already read, as long as you've all heard it and understood it, what the notes for the chair that I had to read at the beginning of the meeting. Can I not have to go through those again?
Dispense.
Thank you. And we will start right away with, of course, our special guest, the Minister of Natural Resources, the Honorable Seamus O'Regan. Minister O'Regan, can you please give us your remarks? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, colleagues. And now I'm getting an echo and the French translation again.
Mr. Chair,
Yeah, it's back.
order. The echo is back, I'm afraid. Not sure what happened there.
Okay,
Off to a
we'll
good start.
we're working on it here. Can you hear me now? And am I echoing?
No, our own voices are echoing.
Yeah. Sorry. Are you getting the French translation in the background?
And the French translation in the background. Yeah.
I'm being asked to suspend it again by IT, so I'll suspend the meeting here for another 5 minutes.
Okay.
Sorry. I'm getting thumbs up from some of the participants. Good. Can anybody start talking on the virtual screens to let us know if you've got the echo dealt with?
There's no echo here in Cambridge, and I'm not hearing the echo from myself either.
Good, thank you. Let's commence, I suggest, where we left off, which was the introduction of the
Okay.
minister for his comments to this committee. Minister, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, colleagues. Thank you all for your kindness. I'm getting an echo again.
That didn't
And-
take long, Mr. Chair.
And translate.
It's the translation's back and the echo. Something's I don't know whether it's the translation that's kicking in.
I'm looking over to IT here to see
Yeah.
what people are scurrying about here.
What happens in the house is the volume sometimes at the same level.
Okay, it's gone. It's gone now. Maybe the minister
Yeah.
can say a few words
Okay.
and see if it's just on his end.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair, colleagues. Gone. We're
Gone.
good. Okay.
Yep.
Okay,
Fan-
it seems
phantom
to be gone.
noises.
Okay, that's
Well,
good.
let's
I didn't have
we
to
won't get too
suspend.
excited, but
All right.
no, listen. Thank you all. Thank you. I was going to say thank you for your kindness and your understanding in my cancellation of I think 3 weeks ago. So thank you for that. I'm joining you from the island of Newfoundland, which is the ancestral homeland of the Mi'kmaq and Beothuk. And I know that my time here is short, and I do want to touch on two very important things right off the top. First, I want to state very clearly that, of course, the best thing that we can do for all our natural resource industries is to wear a mask, wash our hands, and physically distance when possible. And that hope is coming. Vaccines are coming, but we have to be vigilant until then. Secondly, I want to send a very clear message to every worker, every family, and every business that is relying on the Keystone XL project. Our support for this project has been and continues to be unwavering. On their very first call, the Prime Minister discussed Keystone with President-elect Biden. That is the very definition, I would argue, of a priority. I would add that one of the strongest arguments that we can make for Keystone is our record on tackling climate change. Today, my colleague, the Minister of the Environment, announced a historic part of this fight, 64 new measures, $15 billion in investments to protect our environment and to make life more affordable and our communities more livable. It includes almost $1 billion for renewable energy and smart grids to enable the clean grid of the future, $2 billion in repayable financing for commercial and large-scale building retrofits, $1.5 billion in a low emissions fund for hydrogen and renewable natural gas, $3 billion for expediting decarbonization projects for large emitters, incentives for EVs, and a further $300 million to support off-diesel initiatives. This builds on the work that we're already doing. Canada a mis en place un prix sur la pollution. Nous éliminons graduellement.
Canada put in place a pollution price, and we're gradually bringing down the coal industry, and we have a bill on transparency, the transparency of our objective for net zero emissions by 2025. These are significant investments to bring down carbon emissions and to strengthen our capacity around renewable energy. We're also investing in the new opportunities in innovation, including hydrogen, carbon capture, and small modular units.
Speech from the throne this fall, and that we've continued to implement with our fall economic statement last month, including another $2.6 billion over 7 years for retrofits and jobs to make our homes more energy efficient. Once again, I'm getting translation and an echo. Okay, it seems to have gone. I'll pick up where I left off, including another $2.6 billion over 7 years for retrofits and jobs to make our homes more energy efficient. A further $150 million to build more charging stations for electric vehicles. C'est la même vision que celle de
It's the same as was announced in the fall economic statement.
fight climate change with me. Sorry, I'm in, I guess, on all the technical confusion now. I don't, I got to find my notes. Here we are.
Minister, I'm told that
We're using,
that
Go ahead.
the solution, the unfortunate solution, may be to speak only in one language. Unfortunately, so
Yeah,
whatever you
okay.
choose to speak in, it's the toggling back
I'll
and
stick
forth
with
that might be causing some of the problem this time. I apologize.
Gr- my goodness. I'm getting my own echo. It seems to have disappeared again. Okay. So we are using natural solutions to fight climate change. $3.2 billion to plant additional trees, 2 billion trees over the next 10 years. This is in addition to the $30 million that we sought in the COVID-19 safety measures in the forestry sector. A further $22 million this year to combat mountain pine beetle infestations, and $12 million to fight spruce budworm in Quebec. Our forestry sector is a crucial part of our economy and our fight against climate change. All of this is taking place while we support our resource sectors and most importantly, our workers in the midst of a global pandemic. We put in place a 75% wage subsidy to protect vulnerable jobs. We announced further support with increased flow-through share flexibility for junior exploration companies. And we announced $1.7 billion to clean up inactive and abandoned wells, as well as close to $400 million to upgrade and repair facilities for our offshore here in Newfoundland and Labrador. From the beginning, workers have been at the heart of everything we've done. They will continue to be at the heart of everything we do. I will stop right there, Mr. Chair, just to say our resource sector is the foundation of Canada's recovery and our net zero future. And together we got to lay the foundation for its success. I look forward to the committee's questions.
Minister, thank you. Before we start with the questions, I know that there's been a significant delay here, about half an hour. Can you let us know how long you will be available for questioning at this point?
We will keep, as far as I'm concerned, Mr. Chair, we should respect the time that was allotted, and we should keep that time. I'm willing to go as long as we have to keep the appointed time.
Thank you, Minister. First up will be Jeremy Patzer, MP. Jeremy, can you, Jeremy's in the room here.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Minister, for joining us here today. We're glad to see you at committee for the first time. For the sake of struggling Canadians who are looking for help, I hope you'll stay for as long as it takes to give us some answers, which you committed to doing, so I thank you for that. You offered people public health advice, which they're already getting from chief medical officers, so I mean, appreciate that. But what they really need from you is to hear a lot more about a serious, full-scale plan to save their jobs and meet their needs by supporting Canada's energy sector. You said one phone call is a definition of a priority in the list of the comments that you had between the Prime Minister and President-elect Biden. It's been over a month since the Prime Minister made one call on Keystone XL. Is that the last time you took any action to save the project?
No, I think it was just Tuesday that myself and Energy Minister Sonia Savage, the Alberta Energy Minister, and James Rashad, who's the Alberta envoy in Washington, D.C., we have been discussing weekly how we make the case for Keystone and how we make the case for Canada's energy sector in Washington, and how we position Canada with an incoming administration. An administration that looks to be the most sweeping environmentalist administration that the United States has ever seen. So it is crucially important to our energy sector that we get this right. On Tuesday, Mr. Rashad and I appeared together at a summit that was held by the Canadian Embassy in Washington. Had a lot of we consider to be influencers in perhaps a future administration, but also influential people right now in Washington, to make that case, to make the case for Canada's energy, to make the case that Alberta, Saskatchewan, Newfoundland, and Labrador, our oil-producing provinces, are the tops in the world at ESG, that we are lowering emissions considerably, that we have put a price on pollution, that we should be the preferred partner and supplier of oil and natural gas to the United States. And we have taken a Team Canada approach in much the same way as we did with NAFTA. We're doing it together.
Thank you very much, Minister. So part of your Team Canada approach, I'm hoping then, would be to ensure that Keystone XL gets built, because First Nations groups are reaching out. There is the I'm sure you're well aware, the Natural Law Energy Group, which is 5 different First Nations, one of which is in my riding. They have an equity stake now in Keystone XL, so it's extremely important to them. So for the sake of them, I really hope that you will do everything in your power to ensure that this project is completed. I just want to move along here. Do you know how many jobs have been lost in the Canadian energy sector in the last 5 years?
It's been considerable. I would say that, one of the things that we have done, particularly with the $1.7 billion that we put forward on orphan and inactive wells, was to make sure that we, considerably lessened the number of people that we would lose. Because it's not simply about looking after workers, which is actually, which is, as I said, their first priority. The other extremely important part is, as I've said, natural resources in our natural resource sector will be pivotal, central to the recovery of this country. We can't afford to lose talented people. We can't afford to lose experienced people in the field or in the corporate offices of our energy companies in Calgary or Edmonton or in St. John's. We don't want to lose these people. So keeping people in place is vitally important. That was a huge priority for us, both with the wage subsidy and also the $1.7 billion that we put forward on orphan and inactive wells.
Okay, so I'm sure you're aware then that Evraz in Regina, they just laid off 600 workers because there is no work, there is no demand for Canadian steel. We've seen LNG projects being prioritized with Chinese steel, not Canadian steel, and that's a huge problem. There's another issue there, and when I'm looking through the line by lines in the supplementary numbers here, I'm wondering, is there any funding through your department to help combat misinformation campaigns and campaigns against Canadian resource industries?
I would say that the initiative that we have taken with the Alberta government to make sure that we are prominent in Washington, D.C. right now, I mean, that is, I'll be honest, that's the audience that concerns me the most, because I want to make sure that our story gets told and that it gets told well. And I can tell you, Mr. Rashad and I think Minister Savage would say the same, that the Canadian Embassy in Washington and Ambassador Hillman are completely engaged on this. They understand the importance of it. And they have been working Washington together with Mr. Rashad considerably. I mean, they have been working together hand in glove. And we have been, making sure that our story is being told by the people who will make decisions both on Capitol Hill and in an incoming administration that has clearly made the environment and combating climate change a priority. I mean, I read a lot into the fact that John Kerry, former, presidential candidate.
Okay, sorry, Minister, I'm going to cut you off there. I'm sorry. I have one more question I really want to ask you here quickly before my time runs out here. So.
If we can just go quickly here, go ahead, Jeremy.
Yeah, sorry, really quickly here, Minister. So in the $159 million for responsible and renewable resource development, you briefly mentioned carbon capture in your notes here. So I'm just wondering, how much of a priority is carbon capture and storage, and how much of that $159 million is going to go towards technologies like carbon capture, which globally need to be part of the solution when we're reducing emissions?
No question that carbon capture will figure very prominently. It is, when I speak with Minister Savage, it's at the top of the list. We see an incredible amount of potential, because at the end of the day, sir, like, the most important thing is lowering emissions. Regardless of the industry or regardless of where you are in the country, it is about lowering emissions. So carbon capture allows us the opportunity to make sure that those emissions are offset. And the important thing when we talk about net zero is the importance of the word net. Right? It means that there is net zero emissions. So that means carbon capture can play a part in capturing those emissions. We think there's an incredible opportunity there for it. We also think that there's an incredible opportunity for carbon capture with hydrogen.
Great. Thank you, Minister. And thank you, Mr. Patzer. I'll turn now. I think the next speaker list is going to be split between Brian May MP and Maninder Sidhu MP. So I think Brian May will probably go first.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And thank you, Minister, for being here with us today and for your continued patience. It wouldn't be 2020 if the technical gremlins didn't beat us up right till the bitter end here. So I want to just, before I ask my question, thank all the technical folks in the room there for fixing this as quickly as they did. But quickly, because I am sharing my time with MP Sidhu, we know the decarbonization of industrial processes is a key component in getting Canada to meet its net zero target. Decarbonization can also present a major economic opportunity with the ability to deploy innovative technologies and and non-conventional methods to continue to produce the energy and products we need, but in a lower emitting fashion. Minister, can you share with us some of the work that Enercan is doing in this space, and is there any particular projects that you are excited about?
Well, we're working hard to make sure our traditional industries are more sustainable than ever. We need to make sure that we're adopting new technologies, new methods to help us get us there, like carbon capture. So, that part of, we announced $3 billion for a net zero accelerator fund to clean up, to scale up clean technologies. And that's building off other investments we made, $750 million towards a methane reduction fund. There is incredible potential for new technologies like SMRs. Canada's a tier 1 nation for nuclear, with a sector that I think contributes $17 billion to the economy every year. It employs 76,000 Canadians. I think SMRs could hold incredible potential to help us with electrifying more remote industrial areas that are not connected to the grid and lowering their emissions. We're working with over 100 partners from right across the country to develop our action plan on SMRs to really seize this opportunity globally. And I'm impatient to be releasing that. It will be very soon. But it will emphasize that Canada is seizing this SMR opportunity and that it is very well positioned to develop this technology globally.
Thank you, Minister. I know that there are companies in my riding like BWXT and ATS that'll be very, very pleased to hear that answer. I'll share the rest of my time with MP Sidhu, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you to the Minister for being here, and thank you to the technical staff for sorting that out. Before this meeting ends, wishing everyone happy holidays. I want to turn to the way we get ourselves around cars, or more forward-looking electric vehicles. Advocating for cleaner transport solutions and infrastructure for the residents of Brampton is important not only for myself, but for my children and future generations. I know the federal government is working hard to provide Canadians with more options and cleaner choices for their transportation needs. The transportation sector accounts for 1/4 of Canada's greenhouse gases, which is why it's important for Canada to set ambitious targets. And it's just as important that we continue to invest in EV charging station infrastructure. Mm-hmm. Here in the region of Peel, the federal government invests in 43 new electric vehicle charging stations, and many of my constituents in Brampton East are very excited to use these chargers. I see in the mains that there are 2 EV programs, the Electric Vehicle and Alternative Fuel Infrastructure Program and the Zero Emissions Vehicle Infrastructure Program. Minister, how will these programs help make charging infrastructure more accessible for Canadians?
Thank you for the question. Fall economic statement pledged $150 million for expanding that network coast to coast. And that's building on, I think, more than $300 million that's been committed to create that network of fast chargers for electric vehicles, as well as street charging and charging in apartment buildings and retail, businesses and in the other workplaces. Over 380 fast chargers are already open to the public, many more under construction. I think this network is essential for Canada to achieve its targets of zero emission vehicles. I think 100% of all vehicle sales by 2040. That's what we're aiming for. And our government is making zero emission vehicles more affordable by providing incentives for Canadians to purchase the vehicles, a tax allowance when these vehicles are purchased for business use. We're seeing them used now in the mining industry. These are all the ways I think that this is how we get to net zero by 2050.
Thank you, Minister. Mr. Chair, how much time do I have left?
You have a minute and 20 seconds.
Okay. Minister, going back to thank you for that answer. It's very important. We want to make sure that Canadians have that option should they choose to invest in an EV vehicle, across the country. We want to make sure communities are connected. Minister, I know a lot of these programs are in partnership with, the cities, the municipalities, or regional conservation authorities, such as it is here in Peel. How's the uptake with our regional partners, or at the municipal level?
At the municipal level and at the provincial level, we've seen a great deal of enthusiasm. I don't think that's a surprise to you. I think most MPs of all stripes in the House of Commons have commented to me, and these are things that are very popular with their constituents. I think that we have some ways to go because we've got to get the word out on range anxiety primarily. People, this is a big country. For a lot of us in our constituencies, communities are far apart, and the idea of running out of juice is an anxiety for Canadians. So we have to give them the assurance that that's not going to happen. And fast chargers are a great way to do it, because people, if they're on the road, and if they've got a long trip, they just don't want to spend an hour, hour and a half, 2 hours of it sitting by a charger. So fast chargers, I think, are essential too in terms of time. I mean, it's these ways that we get buy-in from people to buy EVs.
Thank you, Minister. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Maintenant, c'est le tour du maire Simard, député, pour 6 minutes.
Now, for 6 minutes for questions. Go ahead, Mr. Simard. Yes, I'd just like to take a few moments. Mr. Regan, I'd like to give you my condolences for the passing of your father. There's something that surprises me in your opening remarks. Even though you're trying to put together two concepts that don't make sense. You're talking about clean technology and reducing carbon, and then on the other hand, you're talking about the economic recovery will happen through natural resources. And the most important thing of your speech had to do with oil. So I don't know if you know, but for a few weeks now, we've been studying the forestry sector as the most promising economic sector for climate change. And I'll give you a very simple example. I got out some numbers, and from 2017 to 2020, so over those 4 years, Canada reinvested $24 million to support gas and oil. So rather 24 billion, including $7 billion that was to buy a pipeline. In the same period, if I look at the forestry sector, it's $952 million. But when I break that down, I realize that 75% of that amount is loans. So that means, in my opinion, that there's no effort made to support the forestry sector. Yesterday, a number of witnesses showed us the potential of the bio industry and using biomass, and I don't see an intention on the government's part in the recovery plan to focus on that. So maybe you could reassure me, let me know where you're at with support for the forestry sector.
I'll say.
All right, in French. Now, stakeholders in the forestry sector of Quebec will receive significant support, $12 million this week, to fight against the spruce budworm infestation. We have also launched a call for proposals as part of the Forestry Sector Transformation Program. And there are 70 missions coming from around the country, and we're talking $2.3 billion in potential investment. Since 2015, this program has funded 15 different innovative projects throughout the Quebec sector. $4.9 million in the Panot factory of Unibor. That was to install a new dryer and improve their production chain. We've supported Resolute Canada Inc. and investing in the production of biomaterial. And yes, I've read all of that, Mr. Regan. I've got all of that right in front of me here. But what bothers me is that it's just one drop. The investments you're making to support the forestry sector is just one. It's so minimal compared to what you're doing for the gas and oil sector. So there's clearly it's an uneven, it's an unfair process. So in my opinion, currently the oil and gas sector is going through a hard time, but at the time of this transition, there was no support from the federal government. And I don't understand why you're focusing on this. If you're serious, and there was a bill that your government tabled on transparency and accountability and net zero emissions, I don't know why you insist on supporting the oil sector when the forestry sector could bring you even further. And even worse, I've been hearing that you're probably going to have a gray hydrogen strategy. So creating a ton of hydrogen from oil and gas, that's sending tons of carbon into the environment. We could do the same thing by using biomass and electricity without producing as much greenhouse gas emissions. So I do not understand that strategy. Clearly, you can't put these two together. Either you're not serious about your environmental commitments, or you've got an idealized theory around what the oil and gas sector can do for the economy.
Mario, for technical reasons and because you asked a very straightforward question, I want to give you a straightforward answer. So pardon my English on this. I think I have an extraordinarily realistic view. And I pride myself on that, actually. I think that people who come from, who grow up on a rock in the middle of the Atlantic, or who grow up, as I have, in the north, in Labrador, you have no choice to have a very realistic view of the world. We are the fourth biggest producer of oil in the world. We are the fourth biggest producer of natural gas in the world. We have found a way to figure out how to get oil out of sand. That is a remarkable thing. And what I have said time and again is we need that same ingenuity that has made us the fourth biggest producer of oil in the world to lower our emissions. That has now become a crucial thing. Not only seen during the pandemic, but also because we have an incoming administration in the United States that is also the #1 customer of our #1 export, and it is changing its priorities. It is changing the supplier of what we produce and how we produce it. So this is essential stuff. Having said that, natural resources it's a big department, and that is not to take away anything from our forestry sector. And I don't disagree with any of your points, frankly, on how important forestry will be in our recovery, how important it will be in a net zero economy. And I am proud, I have to say, of the expertise within my department that has demonstrated time and again in working with the provinces, some incredibly innovative things that we can be doing with provinces on forestry, with the companies on forestry, and increasingly with Indigenous peoples on forestry. It is not a zero-sum game.
Minister,
but I cannot take away from the importance of oil and gas as well.
Thank you, Minister. And thank you, Mr. Simard. Turning now to Richard Canning, MP, who will give us 6 minutes of questions. Please, Richard.
Thank you, Chair. And thank you again, Minister, for being here with us today. I assume from Newfoundland, the home of my ancestors. Indeed. So all right. Good to see you on the rock. I'm going to start again with the oil and gas sector. We just had the Canada Energy Regulator put out a report a couple of weeks ago on Energy Futures 2020. They included what they called the evolving scenario, which is assuming some action toward climate change, the fight against climate change. That evolving scenario wasn't going to get us to net zero, but at least it was a recognition by CER that that's the kind of thing we're going to be doing. And under that scenario, they showed the difference between our ability to, the pipeline supply we had, the pipeline volume, and what we'd be exporting. And what it showed was, we have 3 expansion pipelines in various stages of building right now. We've been talking about Keystone XL, there's Trans Mountain expansion, Line 3 expansion. All these pipelines exist right now, but they're going to be greatly enlarged to take expanded production from the oil sands. What this scenario showed, what this report from the CER showed, was that we will only need one of those expanded pipelines to handle the expanded production from the oil sands. And in fact, if we wanted to get to net zero, we may not need any of them. And I'm just wondering what the department has projected as to what would be in those pipelines? You know, are we going to have 3 pipelines with only 1/3 capacity being used, or are we going to have one that's going to be used and the other 2 won't be needed? Just wondering what your plans are for that future, because that's where we're headed. And it seems I keep getting very, very conflicting statements from this government about the importance of fighting climate change and the doubling down on the fossil fuel industry.
I would say, Mr. Canning, it's not so much a doubling down on the fossil fuel industry as an appreciation of its importance and also the importance of lowering emissions. Not only because lowering emissions is the right and proper thing to do, but also because it will put us at a significant competitive advantage. You know, on pipelines, particularly on the PBO report, there are a lot of factors that go into determining whether a pipeline is necessary: contractual support, shipper choice, the nature of markets that would receive the products that we deliver by the pipeline. And in the PBO report, they note that the profitability depends on a lot of factors, such as whether or not there's a delay. And Ian Anderson of TMX has confirmed that the project's on time, it's on budget. He said that just recently. You know, even as Canada continues to take that more aggressive climate action, the world is not going to stop using oil overnight. You know, I know that from the many international energy meetings, agency meetings that I attend.
Right, and I'll just jump in here and say, I agree the world is not going to stop using oil. It's just not going to need any more oil, according to this report from the Canada Energy Regulator, which has not historically been biased against the oil and gas industry, quite the opposite. So I'm just wondering, you know, in a world where we see Total writing down $8 billion of investments in the oil sands, Imperial writing down $1 billion, we see other countries around the world, this investment, the flight of investment from the oil and gas sector is not limited to Canada. It's happening all over the world. It's happening in the United States. And it's happening because people are looking at that future. And I'm just, again, wondering yes, we'll be using oil, and I have great respect for the industry. I have great respect for the people that work in it. But what oil will be in those pipelines? Right now, they're full, but all the projections show very, very little expansion happening in the next 30 years. In fact, the evolving scenario shows a dropping of a need over the next 30 years.
First of all, Mr. Canning, I would say that there are a lot of reports, and many of them are conflicting. This is an incredible time, a time of flux, I would argue, for the energy market all over the world. So it is never a bad thing, and I'm thinking here particularly of TMX, to make sure that we diversify our customer base. That, you know, with most of our energy exports going to the United States, particularly for Alberta and Saskatchewan, we need to open up more international markets. I mean, for TMX, you've got 13 shippers that have made 15 to 20-year commitments, accounting for about 80% of the capacity on the expanded TMX. So the demand is there. It has been contracted out. TMX is meant to get our oil to new markets, and in exchange, we get a higher price for the same resource. And, you know, we intend, as we have said, we intend to sell it back to the private sector and put those funds towards a green future. I mean, this is what we are witnessing now is an energy sector in a tremendous state of flux.
Yeah.
And therefore, we have to be very nimble in order to look after our workers and to look after our economy, while at the same time showing that we can lead on lowering emissions. I know at first blush that this seems like it's a very contradictory thing, and I would make the argument, and I'm sure I'll make it again during this committee, that they are not. And it is essential that we get that balance right.
Thank you, Minister. And you're pretty much out of time here, Mr. Canning, but thank you. Next round of questioning, we will move towards Rachel Harder, please. Rachel Harder, MP.
Great. Minister, thank you for taking the time to be with us here today. Minister, I'm just wondering, a construction worker, is that a good middle-class job?
Indeed.
Awesome. And an engineer?
Indeed.
An offshore pipeline inspector?
Definitely.
An offshore drilling rig mechanic?
Definitely.
An offshore technician?
Definitely. Where is this going?
A service technician?
Yes.
An underwater welder?
Yes.
A field advisor?
Yes.
An environmental consultant?
Yes.
An administrator?
Yes.
A truck driver?
Yes.
a laboratory analyst,
Yes.
a field advisor.
Yes.
Excellent. Minister, I've outlined just a few of the tens of thousands of jobs that are provided within oil and gas, that are provided within the development of our energy sector. In the mandate letter that the Prime Minister wrote to you, he said this. He said that it is your responsibility as the minister to create, and I quote, good middle class jobs. Can you tell me if you are doing everything in your power, and it's a simple yes or no, to create good middle class jobs in the energy sector?
Yes.
So when I look at the work that you folks are doing in terms of actually shutting down the energy sector, imposing a carbon tax, imposing a clean fuel standard, I would argue otherwise, that actually, to your own admission, you said the job loss that we've seen over the last number of months, even the last few years, is, to quote you, considerable, which means that it would appear you're not doing everything in your power to protect these good middle class jobs and create new ones, which is exactly what your mandate letter says that you're supposed to be doing. Are there tangible steps that you've taken within the last few months in your role as a minister to make sure that Keystone XL gets into the ground, other than your initial phone call?
Well, I would take a second, perhaps, to, as you refer to my mandate letter, to talk about our record. TMX, we got it approved. We'll get it built. That's 7,000 jobs created so far. Line 3 pipeline.
But Minister, I'm just asking for
I'd like
tangible things that you've done.
I'm speaking.
Yeah,
Keystone
we
XL,
match time at this
support-
committee, so when there's a question lasting a certain amount of time, the answer will last the same amount of time, please. Go ahead, Minister.
TMX, we got it approved. We'll get it built. 7,000 jobs. Line 3 pipeline, we approved it. 7,000 jobs. Keystone XL, our support is unwavering. 1,500 jobs created so far. Nova Gas 2021, we approved it. That's thousands of jobs to be created. LNG Canada, we are building it. Thousands of jobs. Orphan and inactive wells, $1.7 billion. Thousands of jobs to be created. And then the wage subsidy, more than 500,000 workers kept in their jobs in a pandemic in Alberta alone.
Minister, a subsidy is not a job. A subsidy is not a job. And in your opening comments, you said, most importantly, I'm quoting you, most importantly, we must support our workers. If you want to support workers, you have to create jobs. If you want to create jobs, you have to allow energy projects to go forward. And under this current government, that has not happened. Minister, the floor is still mine. Thank you. Now, it's interesting to me, this phrase, to create good middle class jobs, because what is insinuated is that the opposite exists, that somehow there are bad middle class jobs. Can you give me an example of a bad middle class job?
I don't think the member heard me, Mr. Chair, when I cited the jobs that we have created by doing things that the government previous to us was unable to do. We got TMX approved. We'll get it built. Line 3 pipeline, we approved it. Keystone XL, our support's unwavering. Nova Gas approved it. LNG, building it. Orphan and active wells. These are big jobs. They are important jobs. They are good middle class jobs. We're getting it done, Mr. Speaker, Mr. Chair.
It's interesting to me, again, that your government feels the need to distinguish between a good middle class job and a not so good middle class job. It's so ignorant to do that, to classify jobs as if there are good jobs and bad jobs, and it's up to the Prime Minister and I guess you under your mandate letter to determine which is which. It's rich. In Atlantic Canada, the Liberal energy ministers in Newfoundland and Nova Scotia both sent you a joint letter with regards to the clean fuel standard, both talking about the damage that this is going to cause to their economy, the impact that it's going to have on Atlantic Canada. Have you responded to that letter?
First of all, I would like to just address the fact that somehow or another that I am distinguishing between good and not good middle class jobs. That certainly is not how I would distinguish it at all. And I would remind the member, Mr. Chair, that I live in a oil and gas producing jurisdiction, and that in fact, the province of Newfoundland and Labrador relies more on the royalties from oil and gas than Alberta does. This is a priority for my neighbors, my family, and my friends.
Minister, can you wrap up your comments in the next 10 seconds or so, please?
I'm finished. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
So you haven't responded to the ministers?
No, I'm sorry. That's the end of your questioning, Ms. Harder. We'll move now to the next questioner for 5 minutes, and it's Patrick Weiler MP. Patrick.
Thank you, Chair, and good afternoon, Minister. Thank you for joining our committee today. There are so many important measures in the announcement from today, and a healthy environment and a healthy economy, that I'd like to look at in more detail in this committee. But today, the matter at hand we're looking at is the supplementary estimates and the important work that's being done to support our natural resource sector, and as well as the work that we're doing to support the economy that we're moving towards. And with that in mind, clean technology is an emerging sector and an area of opportunity for Canada. It's estimated that it is a $2.6 trillion economic sector globally right now. And of course, it features very prominently in our announcement from today, as it should. We need more firms that are active in clean technology to ensure that we have a wealth of technologies that will help us reach our net zero targets. I know because I have many of them in my riding, like global leaders in direct air capture, carbon engineering, leaders in the green building technology and NEXI building solutions that have very innovative tools to get us there. And I see in the main estimates that we have set aside nearly $50 million for clean technology challenges. What are these challenges, and what potential comes out of funding challenges like these?
The Impact Canada challenges, they're great examples of using innovation that you really, you find in the marketplace in order to find those solutions. So you got the sky's the limit challenges, which is trying to find less emitting jet fuels, which is hugely important. The Women in Clean Tech Challenge, which is financing some great research from 6 women innovators to lower emissions in industrial in industrial activities. The Charging the Future Challenge on EVs, the Indigenous Off-Diesel Challenge for remote Indigenous communities, the Crush It Challenge in reducing energy use and emissions, grinding minerals in mining, and the Power Forward Challenge, which is in partnership with the UK to design better power grids. They're a bit of fun, but they're also incredibly important to kind of focus our energy and focus our talent. We want Canada to be a world leader. I would like to be ambitious, say the world leader in clean innovation. And we've promised to cut the corporate tax rate in half for companies in this space. We're also looking to transform how we provide energy in a low carbon economy in our communities by shifting to clean power. We're supporting manufacturing and natural gas and energy sector. And if you look at, the most important, I remember standing at Globe, and Patrick, I'm sorry, Mr. Chair, I would say it's a member that, I'm sure he has attended Globe in Vancouver, the biggest clean tech conference in North America. And, you are reminded when you go there as well, and back to the other member's point about, how you balance all these things, 70 to 80% of clean tech in this country is funded by oil and gas. We're talking about $1 billion a year. So, we can't get to net zero without the oil and gas industry. In the same way, in the inverse, I would say that the oil and gas industry needs net zero in order to continue to grow and prosper. Two sides of the same coin. This is not easy stuff, and it doesn't make for a bumper sticker. But it is, when you are an energy country like we are, you have got to get it right. You absolutely have to. The world is watching us on this. And clean tech, given the fact that we have the most educated populace in the OECD, and given how vibrant our tech sector is in this country from coast to coast to coast, and I think you'll see it dispersed to even smaller jurisdictions and cities like mine, where Verafin had one of the biggest tech acquisitions in Canadian history. You're going to see tech in this country, and clean tech particularly, just blossom and grow. And so as a government, what we need to do is make sure we maximize that. Those are energy jobs. Those are natural resource jobs. And it's these sorts of things that will continue to keep Canada an energy superpower.
Thank you, Minister. And that leads to my next question, because in your opening remarks, you made an interesting note in that in order to get to net zero, we need our resource sector, particularly oil and gas. And it would be a massive understatement to say that the investment climate is starting to pay more attention to climate action. And then in the SUPS-B, you are seeking $160 million for the new emissions reductions fund. And I was hoping you could share why this fund is so critical to the oil and gas sector, how it will lead to longer-term economic benefits for the sector by making us more competitive as the world continues to move to take more ambitious climate action.
Just to expand on that story, I was telling you earlier. It was interesting being in front of Globe and taking the position that in front of the clean tech sector that the only way we would reach net zero is with Alberta, with Saskatchewan, and with Newfoundland and Labrador. We cannot reach it without the oil and gas sector in this country. It's just too big and too important. It is the driver.
If you could wrap up quickly, please,
driver
Minister.
in this country for our economy. So, very, very quickly understanding that making sure that we make investments in the oil and gas sector to lower emissions is absolutely essential to the economic competitiveness of Canada.
Thank you, Minister. Moving to our next questioner, it'll be again Deputy Mario Simard.
MP Mario Simard, 2.5 minutes. Go ahead, Mr. Simard. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I know that it's a little bit of an uncomfortable situation, Mr. O'Regan, because the criticisms that I'm making might be very different than those of my conservative colleagues, and I'm sure you don't want to shut down the energy sector. And I do have criticisms around that because I suppose you are supporting it a little too much. And I'd like to come back to the question of hydrogen. We know that you are supposed to make an announcement on hydrogen, and I'd like to know when that plan is supposed to be announced. And would there be a significant portion for green hydrogen? That means being made from electricity or from biomass. Thank you, Mario. Mr. Chair, thank you.
Hydrogen, we are impatient. I think I've said that I want to have it out by the end of the year, so I will stay firm on that. We think that there's incredible potential for hydrogen. We think that hydrogen plays well right across the country, that different parts of the country had different assets that can be used in a national hydrogen strategy. I'm not going to scoop myself, but these are things that I think are fairly evident. In Alberta, Saskatchewan, and Newfoundland and Labrador, you have incredible natural gas resources. You have incredible hydroelectric resources in Manitoba, in British Columbia, and in Quebec. And all of these can be used, whether it be for blue hydrogen or whether it be for green hydrogen. Green hydrogen, as it is right now, which hydroelectricity in Quebec would be perfectly suited to, is expensive, more expensive right now to produce. But part of that strategy will be looking at ways to lessen that, because the world is demanding green hydrogen. Increasingly, they will be demanding hydrogen, but I think the premium product will be green hydrogen, and we're seeing massive investments in Europe, and they will figure, I think, both as a competitor but also as a customer, a significant customer for Canadian hydrogen. So I'll end it there just to say that I hope that I will have that before you very soon.
Mr. Simard, we're out of time. No, we're out of time here, Mr. Simard. So I'm going to move to the next questioner, which will be Richard Canning for 2.5 minutes, please. Mr. Canning.
Okay, well, thank you, Mr. Chair. And I'm going to move to the topic of retrofits. Energy efficiency is obviously going to be needed in a big way if we're going to get to net zero. We simply can't create all the energy that we need for what we will be using without it. And I was, I guess, somewhat happy to see in the fall economic statement and expanded today in the climate plan that just came out, there's an announcement around retrofit grants for Canadian homeowners. It basically brings up the Harper era eco-energy retrofit program, which I must admit I had a private member's bill in the last parliament to bring back, so I can't criticize it from that sense. But in this day and age, 5 years after that, 10 years after the Harper government introduced it, we need something a lot more bold. And Efficiency Canada had a 2020 budget request for 10 times that amount for energy retrofits in buildings across Canada. And that is clearly what we need, not just to get to the energy efficiency that we need, but to create those good middle-class jobs that Ms. Harder was talking about across the country. Efficiency Canada, well, the Efficiency Canada calculates we could create 1 million jobs in energy efficiency alone if we just lived up to our pledges in the Pan-Canadian framework. So I'm just wondering if you can perhaps outline if you have that 10-time vision in the near future, because this is nice, but it's only 1/10 what we need.
Thank the honourable member for the question. I have become a convert of energy efficiency, perhaps, Mr. Canning, partially through your efforts, but definitely through Maren Smith's and just through the facts. The International Energy Agency calls energy efficiency the hidden fuel, and if we get it right, it could allow us to meet about 30% of our Paris Accord commitments. What I also really like about retrofits as a guy who grew up in Happy Valley, Goose Bay, Labrador, is that no matter where you live in this country, this program will affect you. It will actually physically affect the home in which you live. So it's not, one of these programs that will affect that crowd over there and that province or in that region over there. I grown up, like you'd hear about ambitious government programs perhaps, but they just never seem to affect your community. And so retrofits, both commercial, residential, they affect communities. They affect people where they live.
Thank you, Minister. I'll give you a few seconds to wrap up if you'd like.
Well, I think we are going to continue to work on an ambitious program, I think, in this space. I think that we're making a significant down payment, both in the fall economic statement and in our climate plan, and we're going to keep pushing on this because it is effective and it hits all Canadians.
Thanks, Minister. Moving now to the next round 3, starting with Bob Zimmer, MP. Mr. Zimmer.
Yeah, thank you, Minister, for coming today. Appreciate that. And again, our condolences to you, especially on losing your dad. It's my dad means a lot to me, and I know how much your dad meant to you. Just want to start off by asking some key questions about the standards for Canada's exploration industry. We've often seen even bus placards in Ottawa that say the world needs more Canada. And I guess that's why I'm a little bit troubled. And I know you've spoken positively about the resource sector here, but I'm really puzzled about why the clean fuel standard, even in articles that are just printed today that mention refinery shutdowns are not a new phenomenon in Canada, but this CFS is going to basically cause some of these refineries that we do have in our country to shut down. Why would we make a policy, especially at a time during COVID when we're trying to keep every Canadian job we can and even expand those jobs? Why would we be shutting those down at a time like this?
We think actually, I thank the honourable member for the question. I would say we actually think that we will be gaining jobs from the clean fuel standard almost immediately from the farming community, from farmers. But I think also importantly for our future competitiveness. The fact is, talking to people who are on the ground in Washington, we know that one of the biggest and most effective lobbies in Washington is the farmers' lobby. They are lobbying, as we understand it, the incoming administration very hard on an American clean fuel standard. So when one of your biggest competitors and biggest customers is starting to head in that direction, when the European Union and South Korea and Japan and so many other countries that we are allied with, both as people who provide us and people who we provide, when they are heading in that direction, it's simply a matter of, okay, on what terms do we do that? And how do we make sure that this is a made in Canada solution? And how do we remain competitive globally? But that is the direction that we're seeing investors going in as well. They're putting their money into jurisdictions that are taking action on this. And we think that the clean fuel standard is an really important part of that plan to reduce emissions and accelerate the use of clean fuels, I have to add.
Thank you, Minister. Mr. Zimmer?
Is that all? Do I have more time?
Yeah.
Okay. And I appreciate that, Minister, and I think maybe there's a disconnect between you as Minister and who our Prime Minister is today. We're seeing quotes about the clean fuel standard. We already heard the announcement this morning of the potential increases to cost to Canadians, and where it even adds in gaseous fuels to this, to the capture. And one thing that I can see in northern BC, and I'm sure it's the same in Newfoundland, is that heating is not an option for us in our homes.
Yeah.
And so when we see a tax that gets applied to folks just to simply keep warm in the winter, to me, there's something wrong. Plus, in not to have a full understanding that the potential impacts positively to the environment by getting our natural gas to places in Asia to reduce their emissions, to me doesn't seem right. Why wouldn't we be promoting the best production standards, the best exploration standards, and the best human rights standards in the world, and that's Canada. We should be selling more of our resources, not less. I'll just mention a quote. This is from the same National Post or Financial Post article that I mentioned before. There is a wide range of estimates on how CFS will affect gasoline and diesel prices, with some estimates as low as 2 cents per liter for fuel all the way up to 15 cents per liter. The quote goes on, "If it's not done right, we're going to lose existing infrastructure," LaRocque said, adding that could include refinery closures in Canada. And if we're not doing this right, we miss a huge opportunity for existing infrastructure, which will increase the cost of compliance. And this to me goes back to what we were saying. Even the Green Party has said before, we need more refining capacity in Canada rather than sending the raw product to somewhere else to get refined. We should be doing that here. Again, why would we be doing something that puts our refining capacity in Canada at risk?
Mr. Zimmer, I would say using cleaner fuels in our buildings, in our vehicles, and in industries is one of the best ways that we can reduce emissions. It'll cut pollution by up to 30 million tons in 2030, which is the equivalent of taking 7 million cars off the road. But it's going to create opportunities for farmers and companies that are going to be producing renewable fuels. It will.
But Minister, I appreciate your opinion on this. I do. I think it's awfully short-sighted from the Liberal government, though, when we see our global impact, how much of a positive impact we can have in reductions of our emissions in Asia and other places around the world. When we're just looking at our small country of 36 million Canadians, and yeah, it's significant in terms of our CO2 emissions. But when you see the reductions that we can make by getting natural gas to very highly populated areas across.
Quickly here, please, Mr. Zimmer.
Why wouldn't we be doing that and accelerating that process? I just don't get it. I don't think the government understands why we be reducing our capacity to reduce emissions around the globe.
Okay.
That's something I wish
please,
you would
Minister.
be able to understand or make our Prime Minister understand, because I don't think he understands it now.
I would just very quickly to answer the question. The biggest example, Exhibit A, would be LNG Canada, where we, the biggest private sector investment in Canadian history, where we will be doing exactly that, making some of the cleanest liquefied natural gas in the world for export to Asia. And we are looking at other projects in British Columbia, particularly given its proximity to Asia. We're also looking, the proximity on the East Coast here in Newfoundland and Labrador with our natural gas reserves to the European marketplace. So certainly not. I mean, that is something that, frankly, if you look at LNG Canada, we've been very aggressive on.
Thank you, Minister. Next round of questions, we'll go to split time for 5 minutes between Yvonne Jones MP and Maninder Sidhu MP. Time's ticking here, Ms. Jones. I think you're on mute.
Is it okay now? Okay, thank you. Thank you very much, Minister, for being with us today, and thank you for the great work that you've been doing through COVID. Again, like other members of the committee, I want to certainly express my condolences to you and your family in what has been a very difficult time in recent weeks. My question obviously is about the oil and gas industry in Newfoundland and Labrador. And just by note, I speak to you today from your old hometown of Happy Valley Goose Bay, by the way. So obviously, the oil and gas industry is fundamental to the economic growth of Newfoundland and Labrador. I know you have tremendous amount of pride in what the industry has accomplished in this province. And I'm wondering if you can update us today on what the response program from the federal government has been to assist so many people in the industry in our province through what has been a very difficult time because of COVID-19.
Yeah, as the member knows, because we talked an awful lot about this, Newfoundland and Labrador MPs, and as I mentioned to our colleague earlier, Newfoundland and Labrador depends more on offshore on oil and gas than even Alberta or Saskatchewan. So when we were hit with the two crises, it hit us extremely hard in this province as well. And so, we had to look at it very carefully at a solution for the offshore. There are a few things I should take note of that Newfoundland and Labrador's offshore product has going for it. First of all, it's in tidewater, which is why it's traded at Brent prices. Also, the fact it is, as we now know, we've always said it's a sweet light crude. But we didn't really appreciate what that meant. It means it is some of the lowest emitting barrels of oil in the world. That is a huge competitive advantage in a changing marketplace. So when Premier Kenney has said, that he wants to see the last barrel of oil sold in the world to be Canadian, I agree with him. It means that we have to meet those standards, that each barrel has to be the lowest emitting that we can find, and the market will dictate that. So what we've done in this province, we, a year and a half ago, through the Atlantic Accord, $2.5 million in new money for the province as the principal beneficiary of its offshore. And then since this pandemic, close to $400 million to support workers and to lower emissions and to make the industry here more competitive. And we worked with the province very closely on that. So what they have done is, they brought together a task force of union leadership, of industry leadership, and government sitting together to determine where they will put the $320 million that we have given on top of $75 million that we gave in order to reduce emissions. It is a considerable chunk of change that so far we just earlier announced $41 million that's going towards the West White Rose project to keep that in place and to make sure that those workers have good work. And it was matched by the private sector. And that's what happens when you listen to people locally on the ground. You listen to those people who know. I am very proud of our offshore oil and gas workers here in this province. The president of ExxonMobil Canada, which is headquartered here in St. John's, said that there is no more hazardous environment that his company operates in the world than Newfoundland's offshore. It is not easy out there. It takes guts and it takes pride, and we want to stand by these people.
Just to do very quickly here, have about a minute.
Sure, thank you. Minister, I see throughout the main estimates and the SUPSB many items relating to Indigenous engagement with items relating to TMX accommodations, measures to capacity building for community, as well as for consultations on major projects. We've seen what happens when we get Indigenous consultation wrong, major projects don't get built. Can you share your thoughts on the importance of funding for these areas and share some of the work you are doing to ensure we are meaningfully consulting the right way on major projects?
When I moved to Labrador as a young boy, the first people that I was introduced to were the Innu leadership in Labrador. Names that would be familiar to Ms. Jones, Bart Jack, Ben Michel, Daniel Lashini, the leadership at the time, good guys. And it is something that sticks with you. Seeing the state of the neighboring community, the Innu community of Sheshachit, compared to where I lived in Happy Valley Goose Bay, when you're 13 years old, that stays with you. And so I worked in university and in my academic career studying Indigenous participation in natural resource projects, because I saw at a very early age that economic development was key. So maybe I'll talk about this a little more later. All that to say is that this is something that is very close to my heart. I've operated at 2 different tables in Labrador negotiating and working on impact benefits agreements. What we have managed to do with TMX is a playbook for how we move in the future. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. If I might jump in, Mr. Chair.
Actually, I'm sorry, who wants to jump in here?
I just wanted to, it's MP May. I just wanted to be conscious of the
so Mr. Mayor, we're going to continue here. It's I think it's my round here, as long as that's okay with the minister. I think you said he'd stay for an hour. We're not there yet.
Indeed. So. We're not. I beg your pardon, Mr. Chair. I thought we were. I thought we were getting close to that hour. So.
Okay, we are getting close to the hour. If I can start, Minister, and I'm usually peppery with my questions. First thing I'll go to is the Canadian Energy Regulator, because they're asking for an extra $21 million in the supplementary estimates. And yet they came out with a report. So somehow they didn't have the money to produce a report that they are, in my opinion, beyond their own abilities at this point in time, or not abilities, but their own purview, if you will. And yet they came through with a report saying there was a limit to where Canadians, but we were still going to grow in oil and gas. The tough part about that is how do we justify, number one, first of all, 21 million extra dollars for the organization?
Why don't I haven't done this yet. Why don't I take this question and ask my Deputy Minister to answer, Jean-François Tremblay. Jean-François?
Hi, Minister. Thanks for the questions. Actually, the CER, if you look at the mains, for example, the funding that is provided, it's actually lower than last year. And there was a bit more in the funding that compensates for this to stabilize the organization operations and improvement, especially now that they will have to take a bigger role in the context of the...
We'll ask this question again in a second, please. I still got more questions for the Minister. Secondly, you talked in your remarks about the United States here. The United States having sweeping environmental administration that the U.S. has ever seen, this administration. And yet they have no carbon tax, they have no clean fuel standard, they have a 45Q allowing carbon capture, utilization, and storage, natural gas proliferation in production, and oil almost double in the last decade. How do you square this, that this is a trade partner we're going to have to be competitive with, and yet we layer significant costs into our industry in Canada?
Oh, Mr. Chair, I would say they're not in office yet. So, the policies that they're espousing and the commitments that this incoming president have made, obviously not enacted. Not to get in the minutiae of it all, but we don't know how things will go in Georgia, and there could be a considerable conflict, I think, on this between Congress and the White House. But we're listening to people on the ground. Again, the governments of Alberta and Canada are working hand in glove in D.C. through our embassy and through Mr. Rashad to get a clear view of where we see things going. I mean, to quote, they often quote Gretzky, you got to skate to where the puck is going.
Yeah. So you're saying we're going to stay far ahead of their environmental plans in order to kind of keep our industry on. Now, Minister, on the clean fuel standard, which it leads to
the way things are now, but not where they could be very soon.
Well, okay, could be. But you take a look at the clean fuel standard and what it means as far as, and you've met with these same groups that I have in the energy industry and other industries. 90% of them say it will lead to carbon leakage because they're moving their jobs offshore. How do you justify that with a trade partner that we're supposed to be on par with?
Well, as I said, Mr. Chair, we know very well that that the farm lobby is hitting this administration, that others are hitting this administration to talk about a clean fuel standard. One of the things that we would like to be able to do is to be, clear-eyed about where the administration is going to align itself, to make sure that we are aligned so that it is a level playing field. We do not want to hinder our companies either. If this administration looks at us and says you could do a lot more. One thing that I have learned, even during NAFTA Plus, is that the trade representatives from the United States are extremely aggressive, and they have been aggressive in going one way, and they can quickly turn and go aggressive another way, demanding a lot more from our governments and from our industry on lowering emissions, and we have to prepare ourselves for that.
Yes, thank you, Minister. One of the things you talked about here, of course, was the farm lobby you just came up with here. The farm lobby in the States is a lobby that lobbies for their own economic benefit, like so many of the industries that lobby the government, Canada, and the U.S. Now, obviously, that lobbying is happening in Canada too. Biofuels in particular is about the only group you and I have met with, probably joining, that says, yes, long term, we might bring jobs back to Canada, but we're a net importer significantly of biofuels right now and will be for the foreseeable future. As you can see from every U.S. piece that looks at this, it says this is going to be a gold mine for American farmers for the next 10 years. How do you justify that in the context that biofuels themselves actually produce a lot of greenhouse gas full life cycle? 1.6 units of energy to produce 1 unit of energy in the biofuels industry. Square the circle for me, please, Mr. Minister.
Ultimately, it will lower emissions. Ultimately, it will lower emissions, and not only is that important that we do that domestically, but I would make the argument, particularly when, as I said, our number one competitor and our number one customer is about to pivot in a very dramatic fashion. It is very important reputationally that we demonstrate to this administration that we are doing everything that we possibly can to lower emissions. We do not want a reputational risk here either. They need to know that we are a credible provider.
Thank you. End of my round. Next one on the list is Mr.
Point of order,
Mr.
Mr.
Weiler.
Point of order, Mr. Chair.
Point of order from Mr. May.
Yeah, I mentioned this before your questions, but I by my clock we're now well past an hour with the minister, and
Minister,
I
we
know
got
it's been
to.
very,
So let me.
I'm not done. I'm not done, sir. The minister has been very gracious with his time today. He's now an hour and 35 minutes with us. I know he has other priorities today, and I'm just wondering if maybe you can share with us exactly by your clock how much time is left.
Yeah, maybe I can do this with you, Mr. May, and I'll seek the minister's blessing on this first of all. But what I was going to propose is, because I was the first speaker in this round, I was going to give a speaking round to both Mr. Weiler, and then Mr. Canning and Mr. Simard, if the minister is available. Minister, would an extra 15 minutes suit your time today?
Excuse me. This isn't a fair.
Actually, it's a polite question,
Mr. Chair.
Yeah.
The minister was very gracious to extend the time to be here for an entire hour. We're well past that point. To put him on the spot to make this call now, I think is not appropriate.
I appreciate his time and I appreciate your intervention here. Minister, would you like to leave?
It's not a matter of liking to leave, Mr. Chair. It's unfortunately having to leave. Because of the technical delays, I've already kept a number of people waiting.
All right.
But I'm grateful for I think we did get our full hour. I'm grateful for the interventions that were made by the committee.
Thank you, Minister. Much appreciated. We will suspend the meeting while we get the new speakers up and commence in, can we say 3 minutes? Round. First of all, the statement, though, from the Deputy Minister, if appropriate.
Oh, I would go directly to the question if it's okay for you.
Okay, thank you. Then right to Mr. Patzer, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
Actually, I'm sorry, I was reading the wrong side of the paper. The first round here on the second, I think, is Mr. Zimmer.
Okay, thank you, Chair. And I think our time is short. Just to be clear, Chair, we have, 24 minutes left in committee?
You have 6 minutes here, Mr. Zimmer.
6 minutes, okay. I just had a question for the Deputy Minister. I asked the Minister several questions about the clean fuel standard in the announcement this morning, and we're kind of getting an impression about what's going to happen to our resource sector in Canada that doesn't feel like it's a good one. I'm up in Northern Gas Central in Northern BC. We have some of the biggest gas plays in North America, if not the world. We've always held that if our natural gas makes its way around the world, we can actually reduce emissions, the current emissions that are out there. Yet we have a current government that seems to just look at Canada and Canada's footprint, our geographical footprint, and want to seem to impede any kind of export of that clean fuel that we're trying to accomplish. So I know a whole bunch of my constituents go to work every day in the cold. They provide natural gas so we stay warm in the winter. And it seems like this government, all they seem to understand to do is either tax it more or make it tax people's staying warm in the winter, because I guess for some reason this Liberal government thinks it's optional to stay warm in Canada when it simply isn't. And furthermore, what I said before about shipping our high standards of not only employment standards, but our exploration standards, to ship those around the world, I think it's something that Canada needs to do more of and not less. But let me just read a quote from the current Financial Post article that I was quoting to the minister. The standard will introduce a countrywide, this is now the clean fuel standard. Maybe you can explain, I'll ask the question that you can explain. Correct me if I'm wrong. How about that for a question? The standard will introduce a countrywide carbon credit trading scheme and include harsh per ton penalties. Canada will be the first jurisdiction in the world to extend its regulations to cover gaseous fuels like propane and natural gas. Maybe just explain, and I hope I'm not right in this, just explain the good natural gas and natural resource jobs won't be impacted by this clean fuel standard.
Okay. I would not announce the CFS, and I would leave the Minister of Environment to do it when he would judge the time to do it. But just to come back on your point on the clean fuel, you're right about the exports and the importance of the exportations of natural gas, of energy for Canada. It's not just natural gas, it's oil, it's also other form of energy in which we have tremendous capacity and opportunities. But the demand is the demand is changing. The world is looking at us, is looking at the natural gas, and they want to have the cleanest one. So the clean fuel standards is also an opportunity. If our industry doesn't transform, it's not going to get the market space that they want to have. They won't get the market space that they had in the past and that they want to keep. We're going to need to transform the industry, and I don't think you should take the fuel standard.
Maybe help me understand then, Deputy Minister, is that it's my understanding that our Canadian standards are amongst the best in the world in terms of production. I know firsthand, I've just been out to some natural gas sites in north of my hometown here in Fort St. John. There's not a drop of anything that gets spilled that isn't documented, and not much is spilled. I can trust you. We have some of the best standards in the world. And why would we set ourselves on a trajectory where we penalize ourselves when the impact that natural gas, if it lands in a territory across the ocean in a place that has higher pollution than we do in Canada, why would we in some way impede that from happening? That's the thing that I just can't understand.
There's two aspects to it. The first one is if you want to reduce the emission, you have to go where the emissions are. And we have to recognize that the energy sector is where a significant amount of the emissions are. So that's important for us to act there. The second element,
in that calculation, then, did you look at the emissions that if you go to where this product, the natural gas, is going to often go, which is in China, to offset the use of thermal coal, et cetera, does that number get put into the equation?
I'm not going into that. That's an important one from a business perspective and from a Canadian perspective. Look at the NGTL. It's going to help, for example, to get out of coal in some regions of the country. This is clearly strategically important to go there. But I wanted to come back on another element, which is don't take the clean fuel standard as the only measures. There's also a $3 billion for decarbonization. We're going to have to work with the industry, who already, as the minister said, are the big investor in clean tech, and trying to find ways to actually transform the energy and get it cleaner. And that will open markets. It's not just for gas, it's not just for oil, it will be for hydrogen and other sources of energy.
Just a simple question. Do you know what our products are used for? So our natural gas and propane, as an example, when it gets shipped to countries in Asia, do you know what it's actually used for?
They replace coal. in many aspects. A lot of that is to replace coal. As you know, for example, I think in China, they are 60% depending from coal. So
Right.
that's, of course, important that they getting, and that's, when the minister said is practical, I think, that's the point. If we want to go to net zero, we have to take all the advantage of
Do you
reducing.
do you know what
emission.
else it's used for when it lands in the products that it's manufacturing?
But that would be used also, that could be used for production of hydrogen in Canada, for example.
So as an example, when our natural gas and propane and it gets brought out of the ground in my part of northern BC, it gets shipped to a port on the coast of British Columbia,
Yes.
then it gets sent across to countries in Asia, and it's made, some of that product is turned into high value plastics, and not the simple use plastics, but actually the high value plastics.
Quickly,
in
please,
our
Mr. Zimmer.
iPhones And,
Yeah.
and other things. So I guess what I'm saying, and I'll finish with this, is I just would hope that overall calculation is really considered the end value in terms of reduction of carbon in the countries that our gas is being exported to. It really needs to be, I'd say, the number one factor when calculating some of these new standards that just only are set to meet our own natural
Thank you.
resources.
Thank you, Mr. Zimmer. Is there a response to that from the Deputy Minister, or?
No, last point I would just mention is the fuel standard was developed in consultation and engaging with the industry. They actually raised some of the concerns. We'll see how some of them could be addressed and how we're going to move on this one. But I would say that a lot of them didn't necessarily oppose to the CFS. They raised concern, but it's not necessarily just.
I highly doubt.
Yeah, I don't know who you're talking, but we're moving on here.
industry-
Thank you very much.
the
The
highly
next
the
speaker,
industry supports the
Mr. Zimmer.
CFS.
Mr. Zimmer, we're kind of, it's on to Mr. Lefebvre now as the next speaker, please.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. J'aimerais premièrement remercier.
Thank you. I'd like to thank all the witnesses who have been with us and the minister and the deputy minister. Thank you very much for the incredible work you've done over the last year and a half. We've been through some very difficult times. Well, as you know, I'm also the MP for Sudbury, so here it's all about mines, and that's something we haven't talked a lot about.
So we've nobody asked any questions to the minister, so I will certainly ask the ADM and the DM as well, certainly as to the potential of this sector. It's something near to my heart. We have Sudbury is a story I always say where we were 50 years ago. Innovation was to build the largest super stack in the world so that pollution would go further. And actually now, next year, we're bringing it down. We're bringing down the second largest super stack in the world because of innovation, because of the community coming together, because of regulation, all working together. That's why I'm very, when we talk about certainly oil sands and natural gas out west, we've lived it here, of that transition and the difficulty. But again, going to mining and the importance of that, certainly we know that critical minerals are key to when we look at decarbonizing our economy and electrifying our economy. So I want to know two things. Certainly the critical minerals plan that we are upon with some of our partners. I want to maybe hear about that, where this topic on that. And very quickly, if you can also address the geoscience program, because we know we need to be able to access these minerals, and we have tons of them in Canada. So geoscience plays a key role in that and the opportunity that represents. So, Monsieur Tremblay, je voulais commencer. Monsieur Labonté, c'est à vous. Je vous passe la parole. Merci.
And so I'll hand it over to you, Mr. Tremblay.
It's a very important one. It's by doing geoscience that we find those minerals, that we identify them, and we support actually the industry. I will turn to Jeff, who I'm sure wants to say more. He's been waiting for a while. So go ahead, Jeff.
Thank you. Thank you, MP Lefebvre, for the question. And of course, the mining sector remains one of Canada's more dominant sectors that produces significant amounts of jobs and GDP and growth. With the specific reference to your question on the geoscience, the government announced the renewal of the geoscience GEM program, which is geomapping for energy and minerals, $131 million over 7 years to renew that program, as well as the targeted geoscience program.
And as been pointed out, these are the, if you will, the pipeline that produces the knowledge and the research that allows for the exploration companies to then kind of further assess the potential for mineral development in Canada. The economic return to the investments in these programs ranges between $1 and $7. So $7 of investment for every dollar spent by public funding on the geoscience to up to $10 worth of private investment. These are, if you will, the projects that start and would point out that they sustain and support some 600 different communities across the country where mining and mining services, mining operations, explorations, and the science is very predominant. There are over 280,000 direct and indirect jobs in the mining and mineral sector. And what's substantially important to point out is that the mining and mineral sector is the largest employer of Indigenous peoples across the country, with some 16,500 Indigenous Canadians employed by the mining sector. So Canada has a very healthy mining and mineral sector. About half of the world's mining operations, mining projects, mining financing and background is financed by Canadian companies through the stock markets here in Canada. So we have the opportunity to also influence how the rest of the world develops mining operations and make sure that community engagement, local employment, that the right in environmental and industrial standards are used, and that Canada's footprint extends well beyond our own country.
And
so,
and on that point, I've seen it firsthand when we got that PDAC in March of each year. The world comes to Toronto to talk to Canada, and I've been very very fortunate to speak with a lot of ministers of mining from around the world, and they're always asking us how we're doing it here. And you raised a point on Indigenous participation, but I think we've done well, but there's so much more to do, and the potential is huge. And again, I think we are leaders in the world, but I'd like to maybe hear from you on I think it's the Center of Excellence for Indigenous Mineral Development. It's an initiative that we had started. So if you have anything on that Center of Excellence on Indigenous Mineral that you can share with us as well, because I think it's so important as we look at, and when the world looks at us and we look at the world and we say that our practices here should be repeated and certainly be looked at, but how are we doing in that sphere?
So I thank you for the question, and indeed, there's a lot to be proud of, and there's also work that needs to be done further. So I think we can build on the expertise that we have. The center is one of those forums where working with Indigenous communities, working with associations and with the service sector and all of the supporting institutions, Canada can sustain those jobs by Indigenous peoples and grow the number of Indigenous Canadians involved in the mining and mineral sector. At the same time, the minerals and mining sector is a sector that's in transition. And as we look at critical minerals and the minerals that will be needed in the future, those minerals are significantly important to Canada's clean technology sector, to reducing emissions and to producing some of the advanced products and services that are demanded by the world today. So when we look at the move to renewables, we look at the move to advanced materials and lighter metals,
Quickly,
and
please.
the new components. All of our semiconductors, all of those materials that we use as a society are based on critical minerals, and Canada is deeply fortunate in having the vast majority of those minerals that are available and can be developed, and part of our science programs are supporting.
Thank you. Okay.
Thank you so much.
Le prochain intervenant.
The next speaker is Mr. Simard. 6 minutes. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. So I might have a quick question for the Deputy Minister. Simard is speaking to a Tremblay, so I imagine you're from Lac-Saint-Jean. Very quickly, when I do the calculation, all the initiatives and programs that are there to support the forestry sector, if I think about the Forestry Innovation Project and the Industry Transformation Project or Market Development, or the one that's for supporting the forestry sector in Indigenous communities, it totals $250 million per year. That's pretty surprising for me, because that's half of what was invested to support the gas line. So we had witnesses come to the committee, and they said there are costs related to the transformation of their plant. So for the IFIT, the Forestry Industry Transformation Program, $82 million per year. There must be a lot of projects that you have to reject. Thank you. Indeed, yes, we're from Saguenay, and I'll try not to show my accent too much, or else no one will understand me. Thank you. Well, we don't calculate the interest for us and the industries just in amounts. You've seen that there is money dedicated to planting trees, and we're continuing with IFIT. I was hoping you'd give me the French acronym, but that's all right. So we want to work with all sectors and not favor one over another. One of the important things is to focus on the bioeconomy and see how we can try to offer new products. It could be plastics, for example. So these are things that we're doing on all fronts. So I think that gives a false indication if we just look at numbers. Are there projects that we refuse? Yes, in all sectors there are some like that. But we encourage, and we just got a call for proposals with IFIT, and we always encourage, and we plan that we're going to have other ones. And I can turn to my colleague if you want for more details. No, that's all right. It's also my role to highlight that it's very much insufficient. And to be honest, what I'm hearing from people on the ground, I've asked around in the forestry sector in Quebec and the associations, and it's really not enough, the support from the federal government. Now, I'd like to tell you about something that bothered me. When I looked at the market development program, well, we know that Quebec is the biggest player in the forestry sector in Canada. And it's as if the program was custom made for BC, because 80% of the envelope, well, 79%, almost 80% of the envelope was in BC, and yet they're not the biggest player in the market, rather in the country. And what people on the ground are telling me is that the program was made to meet BC's needs, and that there should be changes to better reflect value-added projects. Are you aware of that problem? Well, we don't choose one province over another. I want to be clear about that. Should we invest more in value added? Well, the government and industry need to do that together and focus on innovation. You know that as well as I do, that forestry for a long time was a very traditional and conservative sector and needs to adjust. The good news now is that in the wood sector, things are going well. We've even come back to very high rates, and we can talk about pulp and paper, you know about that. So these are sectors where innovation should be increasing, and we'll have to work with industry to find solutions. But if you look at what FP Innovation is doing, a lot is being done with the industry to work on this. If you look at the challenges we have, well, some people understand the issues in the forestry sector. Yes, the research is there, and that's obvious. But now to get to the marketing part, I get the impression that the federal support is not enough. I'd like to finish with this question about hydrogen. I know there's a hydrogen policy. Everyone I consulted, I talked to them about the scientific knowledge, and I was told that it's a very bad idea to produce hydrogen using fossil fuels. So I'm wondering, in your hydrogen strategy, have you consulted specialists on the topic? Yes, we did consult specialists, and I can turn to Molly, who worked on it. But for us, bad ideas are based on facts and science. And so that's what determines at the end of the day what's the best. Our hydrogen strategy was the idea was to open up a new market and work on decarbonization. So we wanted to bring down emissions, like the minister highlighted. There's not a one-size-fits-all approach. There's a number of ways to go about it. Molly, did you want to add anything to that?
Perhaps just to add, what I would say is that, when we're looking at the difference between all the colors, I think there's an opportunity to sort of think about how it's being produced, but perhaps the most important thing is looking at emissions intensity. And, if we're constantly working towards lower emissions and how we're producing hydrogen, seeking out the market opportunities and what we can do here in Canada. That's what we really want to be focused on, and that's what we'll be looking at in the hydrogen strategy. And just to think, when we think about what other jurisdictions are doing and other countries are doing, even those jurisdictions that are going to be focused or have put a premium on green hydrogen, they still recognize that looking at blue hydrogen is something that we're going to have to do in the near term as we're moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you. And that's the end of the questions for Mr. Simard. Thank you, Mr. Simard. Our last questioner for the day is Richard Cannings, Member of Parliament, for 6 minutes. Please, Mr. Canning.
Well, thank you, and thank you for being here again today. Just in listening to Mr. Zimmer and his line of questioning on natural gas made me decide to go in that direction. So when I was last in Mr. Zimmer's riding in Prince George, I was at a natural resource meeting where the local experts in those projects up there said we needed a price of $6, I think, for natural gas for those LNG projects to be financially viable. Right now, I mean, the price is less than half that, and I think the best projections for the next 10 years, or maybe it might go up to $4. I also have talked to experts in natural resource economy and trade to Eurasia. They say the China market for natural gas is declining. So that's kind of one concern I have about those things. And also, when a couple of years ago I was with Minister Carr, when he was Minister of Natural Resources down in Argentina at a G20 meeting, he was talking about, we need to export our natural gas and get credit for that shift from coal to natural gas. And he said, we want to do this with China. And the Chinese minister got up and said, we are moving directly from coal to renewables. Now, you could take that with a grain of salt, but I just wanted to get a reply from the department about natural gas and how the future looks for Canadian exports abroad, considering these very low prices and changing markets.
I want just on this, if we would have had a discussion 15 years ago, we would have talked about a completely different picture, as you remember, before shale gas and shale oil. So this is a sector that is evolving quite quickly. I think there is still a market for the LNG, that's for sure. And we're hearing and we get comments and we get questions from Asia, and it continues to be of big interest. We also getting a lot of interest on as it was mentioned, on hydrogen, on using gas to transform to hydrogen. So I don't think necessarily the market is down. And if you look at it was mentioned before, the CER and their report, if you look at what they say in their report, they also include a significant portion of fossil energy that would be part of our mix in 2050. And that would be the case in other countries. So there is a market for the energy, but as it was mentioned, it needs to be, if we want to get access to those markets, we're gonna have to have the best in the class. And that's what we're doing with, as you know, that's what's happening with the big LNG projects in BC. And I may turn, if you want, I could turn to Glenn, who's the ADM on energy, if he wants to have something.
Okay, quickly, I have another natural gas question I'd like to get into.
Okay, thank you, Deputy, and thank you, Mr. Canning. I guess I would just add, I mean, we certainly see a lot of enthusiasm, continued enthusiasm for LNG. I recently participated in a Canada-Japan energy forum where LNG was top of mind, and I think we look at the LNG Canada project, which is the biggest private sector investment in Canadian history, and I think we can see that there is continued interest and enthusiasm in LNG and export to the Asian market. I'll leave it there. Thank you.
Okay, it was the LNG Canada people who told me they needed $6 to make it profitable. I just want to ask more about domestic LNG and specifically renewable natural gas. We have, there's a project starting in my riding of using forestry waste to make renewable natural gas. They're looking to the federal government for some supports for that. and we're getting, I think, some headwinds over the federal government not counting that as a, climate friendly. It was a fossil fuel, and so it was not considered for a lot of funding. I'm just wondering if there's an exception possible for renewable natural gas that is taking forestry waste that otherwise would be just burned.
It's hard for me to assess a project without seeing the detail of it. So I would not. I'm not in a position to answer it. If you want to send us the project, we will be pleased, of course, to look at it.
I guess my question was: is there some blanket? Or there's a lot of funding out there for projects that will get us to net zero, but they seem to exclude natural gas because it's a fossil fuel. Some of these envelopes of funding.
I would not say that they exclude natural gas because, as I mentioned before, we continue to support the natural gas industry and support the exportation of natural gas. And we also just approved projects like the NGTL, where natural gas would be used to get the coal off off. And we also have, as we mentioned, also on the hydrogen side, the possibility of using natural gas to produce hydrogen, especially if you combine that with carbon capture, for example.
That's it? 10 seconds. Well, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Canning. Anything else today? Because I think that's probably where all we're going to get in as far as the timing on the round today.
Mr. Chair?
Who has...
It's Mr.
There you are, Mr. May.
Just a point of order. Want to thank you for stepping into the chair's role today and handling yourself very well in a day that it came with a number of technical challenges. And a very important point of order. Want to wish everybody a very Merry Christmas and an incredibly Happy New Year.
Thank you, Mr. May.
And Happy Hanukkah.
Thank you.
All right, take care, everyone. Thanks, Mr. Chair.
Chair, am I able to table a motion?
You can put a motion forward.
Okay.
Mr. Patzer?
I'm going to send it to the clerk here because I have it in translation as well. So clerk, you should be getting that shortly. I just have a notice of motion here to put forward that pursuant to Standing Order 1082, the Standing Committee of Natural Resources call for the Honorable Seamus O'Regan, Minister of Natural Resources, to appear no later than Friday, February 5th, 2021 for at least 2 hours in order to provide timely updates on the current and expected impacts of Canada's economic and trading relationship with the United States on the following: 1, Keystone XL pipeline, and 2, softwood lumber disputes. It was great having the minister here today, but it was such a short time. I think we all would like to hear from him a little bit further, especially since this is his file.
Thank you,
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Just a clarification.
Mr. May.
Just a clarification. This is a notice of motion.
It has to be notice of motion because it requires. I think this one requires 48 hours notice.
48 hours.
Yeah, so it would require 48 hours notice.
Thank you.
Any discussion on the motion? Okay, good. No discussion. So, anything else that we need to consider as a committee here today? All right, everybody. Thank you for today, and Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, Happy Hanukkah, and we will see you. Happy holidays. We'll see you in the new year.
Merry Christmas, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.